Hey, and as of today, I was able to get the Broken Isles Diplomat achievements. Whoa! It did take quite some time to get the Warden's reputation up, but, well, I got it. And as of this recording, one day before the Emerald Nightmare raid is about to open up, all I have to do is complete Lore Master, and I will be able to get access to the faster mount speed, or otherwise I'm about to complete part 1 of the Legion Pathfinder achievement. And that's cool. I'm really happy to have finished it in a relatively short amount of time. I mean, it was a little grindy here and there. There was a bit of exploring and quite a bit of walking that I had to do. But between the accessibility of World Quest and the Flight Master's Whistle, it really didn't take very long. So now here I am, just kind of waiting for tomorrow, waiting for the raid to open up. I'm more than likely not going to do a full clear of Emerald Nightmare in one go, but starting tomorrow I'll be able to make a little bit more headway into getting this achievement. And of course unlocking Flight, whenever that's going to be. And that kind of goes into what I wanted to talk about today. It's this whole thing about having to wait for certain content to be available for players, or what some players like to call gating. So gating is a term that's being thrown around by players when they want to kind of express their opinions about the pacing of content and how long it takes for them to get access to whatever it is that they want to do. And in today's video, I'm not exactly going to rail on players who don't like gating. I'm not trying to push the opinion that, hey, we as players should be waiting for whatever Blizzard has set forth for us. But at the same time, I want to make at least a small attempt to bring into light some of these arguments and try to clean it up a little bit, because some of the conversation about gating and otherwise the pacing of content has sunk into this kind of hyperbolic shitfest that it's really not producing any good conversation or anything digestible that Blizzard can really soak in and understand. So when we're talking about gating, I'm actually talking about pacing. It's one of the many pillars of game design that has a huge effect on the player experience. And the pacing of a game can be defined relatively simply. We have the beginning of the game, we have the end of the game, and then there's everything in between. And it's just a matter of how game designers decide how is it that they want their players to experience the journey between start and finish. Sometimes it's just really easy. Think Super Mario Brothers, where you're just going from one end to a level to another. You keep progressing through that, you finish a world, you finish multiple worlds, and then you get to the end of the game. Of course, there are these warp zones that let you skip worlds and levels in order to get to the end, and that kind of throws a cool little wrench into the mix. It keeps things from getting too boring. If we take it up with something a little bit more complicated, such as the Legend of Zelda games, the structure of those games is designed as such where when you're trying to complete a certain dungeon, you're not able to unless you acquire a certain tool. Once you obtain this tool or item, you're able to complete the dungeon, and also in the outdoor world, more of it opens up because now you have this hook shot or something like that that gives you access to other areas. So now let's move it up to something more familiar, but many magnitudes more complicated. We'll look at World of Warcraft and how we start up leveling up to max level, and from there we meet certain requirements in order to purchase items, in order to access dungeons or raids or what have you. Or going back to what I first mentioned, Flight. Both players and Blizzard have kind of been at odds as to how best to tackle this subject. The opinions aren't simply black and white, but going into two extremes, there's one camp that wants there to be no Flight ever again, while on the other side, folks want Flight to be available pretty much at all times during any expansion at any given time. And at the moment we have this kind of compromise. The designers do want players to experience the world at large, but at the same time respect the desires of players who want to fly around and otherwise get to places faster, be able to explore the world in a different way, and that's cool, that's fine. So now that I as a player have come to this point where there's pretty much nothing that I can do, because the whole raid isn't open, I can't proceed with the quest line for the achievement. Now that I can't proceed any further with the Pathfinder achievement, I can kind of step back, take a look at the road that I traveled, and tell myself and to you guys, it's worth it. I think that between doing so many world quests and checking out all these different reputations and doing all these quest lines and everything else that I've been doing, I can safely say that, hey, you know what, I think I have deserved the ability to travel around just a little bit faster than before. And I know factually, because hey, it's me, that I'd be pretty burned out trying to level up multiple alts and not being able to fly around and get through stuff faster, because I've done this stuff before. I do think that there should be kind of a reward for all the hard work that I've done at exploring and experience everything. And the cool thing is that unlike Draenor's Pathfinder achievement, which was kind of shoehorned in at the last minute, Legion gave us a very strong delivery of world content. So I'm sure that players who are not like me, or maybe you guys, who don't farm as hard, who don't risk trying to burn themselves out trying to front load so much content in such a short time, people that take their time doing all the achievements and exploring everything and doing everything without having to wait for what I'm waiting for right now, is likely to have a less jarring, a smoother experience when they finally complete their Pathfinder journey and earn the ability to fly. Anyway, this is supposed to be a video about gating and pacing, and here I am talking about flight the whole time. This kind of pacing, this gating, it exists in other areas of WoW too. Take the Suramar dungeons for example, which I should add was kind of a last minute change from the beta. According to some of the achievement timestamps that I have here, from the start of Legion, it took about 20 days in order for me to unlock the Court of Stars and the Archway dungeons. Actually, it was more like 18 or 19 days because I got access to the dungeons, but there was like no one available to make a group with. For those of you guys who aren't subscribed or just kind of reading up and trying to discover what's going on, these dungeons are part of a max level zone, and in order to access them, you have to go through a pretty lengthy quest line, and part of that quest line involves acquiring a certain level of reputation with the faction in that zone. And unlike other reputations that had to be ground out pretty hard, the reputation here, this Nightfallen reputation, it was only obtainable in small chunks during the day. There was kind of a cap. You couldn't just go out and farm mobs for 26 hours a day and then get access to this dungeon. It was paced in a certain way, and in my opinion, it was to kind of get a more epic feel out of unlocking these dungeons. It was meant to help play out the story, because if you were able to get access to these dungeons like right away, or if you could access them at level 101, you're going to lose almost all the narrative behind it, and nothing inside would really make any sense. Now, of course, we only have to look as far back as Warlords of Draenor to find dungeons that don't make a whole lot of narrative sense. I think Bloodmaw Slag Mines is something that comes to mind. But while the unlocking of those Suramar dungeons makes sense narratively, mechanically it was kind of pissing off players. And people were complaining about this a lot when the change was made. However, in practice, I'm not quite hearing the same chime. I think most players are just kind of gritting their teeth and just diving right into the content. I mean, sure, people can complain all they want, but in the meantime, they're just kind of farming the content and trying to push the requirements so they can just get access already. And just a couple weeks into the content, a lot of players do. Not everybody is going to have access to this dungeon straight away. Not everyone is going to access this dungeon at all. But not everybody needs to, because for example, not everyone needs to do these dungeons in order to unlock Legion Pathfinder. The pacing in WoW is incredibly complicated, and I'm probably only really touching on just one or two small parts of it. It's complicated because there are tons of different kinds of players. Person A has a really high item level because they worked hard in this sector of the game. Person B has all these achievements because they've worked on this segment of the game. Person C was able to get tons and tons of gold because they've been working this segment of the game. And then we have another person here who's just being super casual and taking it easy. Then we have a last person who's excelling at everything so great and is able to excel at everything that they do. And it's not me, believe me. So what I'm saying might apply to this game, but it might apply to other areas of a game as well, or heck in real life too. So while you might be happy or unhappy with the pacing of this game, or these mechanisms or gates that are preventing you from doing what you want to do, just remember that while there are a lot of people that might agree with you, there are still a lot of folks that don't agree with you too. Just like some people are going to agree with what I'm saying and other folks are going to think that I'm full of shit. And that's okay. The point of this is more to kind of reinforce what you already believe or feel, maybe to get you to think about certain other things or ideas, but largely just to kind of get your brain going. But one thing is for certain, these kinds of analysis videos, no way am I going to just kind of go off the cuff. Hopefully the next one will be better, but I'm not going to put this out because, hey, no regrets. If you enjoyed my thoughts, hit a like and sub if you want more of this stuff. Feel free to let me know your thoughts, or if you respectfully disagree, in a comment below. And otherwise, I'll see you tomorrow on the stream. I'm Soul. Stay breezy, guys.